didn't cover much on the driver's side manifold since that one's tubular. So you basically mount the flange to the head and then figure out where you want the collector at and just kind of connect the dots and miss everything in the way. So that's kind of been covered quite a few times, and there's nothing real special about that. On the passenger side, I opted to go with a kind of log style. This one's a little better than just a normal log because it has a couple steps in it to change the pipe size, which may be hard to see from the camera angle. But hopefully that'll help flow a little better than just a standard log. But I was kind of outlining what it takes to make the holes in these because it is a little difficult. Some people will use a plasma cutter. It's messy. It's quick, but it makes a huge mess inside of the log, which is difficult to clean out. So what I would do on this is you kind of rough cut with a 4-inch grinder the runner to try to match the radius of the log. Once you have the fitment close to what you're looking for, lay it in place and trace it as close as you can with a marker. You got a pretty good idea of what you're looking at and what the hole needs to look like. And then I come in with a drill, a nice sharp, smaller bit. Kind of drill around the outside. You don't want to go straight to the line because that's the outside diameter of the tube. So kind of think about the thickness of the tube you're using and step that far in and cut that around. And once you drill all the holes in it, I'll come through with a 4-inch grinder and kind of connect the dots on the holes. And whatever's left I'll take out with a inline angle grinder. After a few minutes with the drill, this is what you'll end up with. You kind of have an outline of where it needs to go. You have some holes there, and I'll just connect those dots with the 4-inch grinder the best I can and the nicest I can, and what's left I'll come in with an inline die grinder and clean up and make it look nice and make it fit the pipe right. This is what I end up with at this step. Takes a little prying and a little hammering around, but usually you can knock it out of there. And that's the beginning of the hole. Now we'll come in and use an inline die grinder and clean that hole up. Then after some grinding, this is what you end up with. It's not perfect, but it is pretty good and it fits pretty nicely. Slide that in. Now we'll go put it on the welding bench, tack that up. Got one more to do. And here you can also kind of check out the steps I was talking about. So you have the rear runner coming in right at the end, steps up one size. Next runner will come in right on that step. Third runner comes in right on the next step up. And then this one's on the largest step. And then there will also be a pipe coming down from here that will go into this from the other side. And then obviously the turbo will sit up on top of this. And that's where all the flow will come from. The plan would be then to come right off the end here at the 90. Well, I guess it's not quite a 90. It was a 90 at one time, but now it's not. I've had to move it a little bit. But then we'll come off that end with the wastegate flange, and it should be pretty good boost control even with the bigger turbo. All right, I got the manifold tacked together. I'm gonna stick it back on the motor. We'll hang the turbo on it and take a look at it. Something very important that I wanna mention, even when you're just tacking manifolds together, make sure you have the flange that bolts up to the head flat. I have a little fixture that holds everything in a clamp that keeps it straight, but it's very important that all that is straight and flat and true when you're welding it, even just tacking it, because the tack will pull it and throw it way out of line. Especially when you weld it fully, you want to go through and make sure you're holding everything down and straight as well. But even a tack will get it way out of whack, and you'll have to cut it off and fix it. So let's see how it looks. We'll pause here and take a look for a minute. Got it tightened up to the head. Still pretty tight through here. kind of everywhere. Like I had mentioned before, it's definitely going to have a downpipe that goes under the car. It's going to have a full exhaust all the way out the back, like street cars should. And it's going to be difficult to fit the 4-inch or 3.5-inch downpipe I'm hoping for. I could definitely fit a 3 through there with no problem. And we come right through here, cut it straight down. What I'm going to end up doing probably is either using some oval tube or taking some 4-inch tube and kind of flexing it around to bend while still hopefully having the flow, but to clear everything and make sure everything is safe and not getting too hot. But top priority, big exhaust that goes all the way out the back. Here you can see clearance on the AC compressor. The fittings come out down here. We'll have plenty of room to put 90s on those. Probably have to put some heat shields on them, but it'll be fine. Right there, I'm gonna have the wastegate coming straight out, coming down. That will also recirculate back to the exhaust. I've had open dumps and it's cool for a while, but I get over it pretty quick. So I want it to recirculate back into the exhaust system. And then down here, under the mount here is where we're gonna have the other tube coming in, which will cross over from the driver's side manifold, which is a tubular one. If you haven't seen it in the last video, go check out that one. I kind of cover making that manifold a little bit and the steps on that. That goes down to a 2.5-inch collector underneath the steering. And then that'll cross over underneath the transmission behind the oil pan over to the other side. So let's hang the turbo on and check it out. Here's the turbo mounted. I've removed the bracket I had on there that was holding the turbo, just so I can get a better look at what it's gonna be like and the space I have. There still will be a support that'll go to the head to hold the turbo, to take a little weight off the exhaust manifold. But basically, this is the point we're at on the turbo setup. We'll have a downpipe come off the turbo, wrap around through here, go down back there, and hopefully I can make it a size that makes sense and flows as well as I need it to. It's getting close. I took the manifolds off the motor and I wanted to get a quick clip of them together, just to kind of show or highlight the differences in them. Two very different styles of making manifolds, and they're going to be combined to make one turbo system work on this car. So I think everything is done as far as mocking up the engine in the car and the manifolds on the engine and the turbo placement. So now I'm going to pull the engine out, and I guess it's time to really check the motor out. So let's get it on a stand. I'm going to take this time to go into a little backstory on this engine. My father and I picked it up 15 or 16 years ago. We bought it from a guy locally who claimed it was a 50,000 mile motor pulled from a 1999 Camaro. He bought it for a project he was working on. It was a 1952 Chevrolet Carryall. He worked on that project for a couple years. It had Mustang 2 front suspension and coilovers, Ford 8.8 rear end with a 4-link and air ride in the back. And then he did ultimately put the LS1 and a 4L60 in the frame. And he started doing body work on the truck, and I think he wasn't as interested in the body work part of it as he was in the driveline part of it. So he kind of put it on the back burner. A couple other projects popped up through the years for him. So that chassis with the motor in it sat outside under a carport with a tarp over it for over a decade. During that time, without him probably knowing about it, I used that as a parts motor for my other LS projects. So anytime I needed a little piece of something, or I was testing and needed a spare part, I would remove the tarp and borrow that part. Sometimes it made it back, sometimes it didn't. He retired a few years ago and decided to focus on one of his other projects, which was a 1970 Mustang Boss 302. So he put the Suburban up for sale, and someone came along and bought the rolling chassis but didn't want the engine. So he put the engine in his garage and it sat for probably 4 or 5 years. And that pretty much brings me to where we are today. I took the 4L60 straight to the dump where it belongs and shoved the LS in the BMW for mock-up. There's a little milkiness in the pan, but that's probably to be expected for as long as it's been sitting. But it looks pretty fresh inside. Pickup looks nice and clean. I'm gonna pop a rod cap off and see what the bearings look like. Looks pretty good. It's good news. All right, here we are with the heads off. Some carbon on the pistons, but cylinders themselves, very good shape. No ridge, no rust. Definitely be just cleaned up, put together and ran as it is. Switching gears some, I came across this F30 M3 stock exhaust system on Facebook Marketplace for a pretty good deal. So I drove about an hour and picked that up. I'd like to use at least the mufflers and the valves on the back, maybe a little bit more of the exhaust system, maybe even the resonator, but using this would be a whole lot easier than creating an entire exhaust system from scratch. And also, my Link ECU came in after about 5 weeks on back order. I ended up going with this one because of the capabilities of electric throttle body and cruise control, as well as the programmable CAN capabilities. And there aren't many options that kind of have all the IOs that I want, and CAN and cruise control. Excited to start messing with that, and I think that'll wrap it up for this video. After this, unfortunately, I have to start spending quite a bit of money. I'm gonna have to do some work on the engine. I intend to put a cam in it, put some head studs in it. Still deciding how far to go with that at this point. I have to decide on a clutch, make the exhaust system, make the fuel system. So next up is big purchases.